Viewer discretion is advised.
What kid hasn't wanted to own a Pokémon at some point? How amazing would it be to watch a Poké battle between a Charizard and a Blastoise? But maybe things like that, the unbelievable, should remain just that, fantasies. As kids, we don't really understand the real-world ramifications of our youthful dreams. I, for one, was unfortunate enough to have that dark reality shoved into my face. Allow me to explain. My brother and I were 13 and were going crazy over the new Pokémon Diamond and Pearl game. Well, I wasn't as enthusiastic about it as he was. Sure, I played the game often late into the night, but my brother, Jace, went full throttle into the fandom by this point. He bought shirts, pajamas, and little trinkets of his favorite Pokémon, Piplup. You know, that little water penguin-looking thing? Anyway, it didn't matter where he was. He'd have something with a Piplup on it, and wasn't embarrassed or ashamed at all to let everyone know it. I admit it was a little cringe to see my brother like this, but he wasn't hurting anyone. He wasn't. Eventually, my brother started to complain about his arms hurting, that they were getting stiff, that his fingers would get stuck together for some reason. He often complained of headaches as well, that he could feel his skull shift around. I wrongly assumed his body was stiff and sore from just playing games too long, as well as severe eye strain from looking at his screen from dawn to dusk. If only that were the case. Instead, I had to watch my brother transform into a grotesque abomination. Jace stopped attending school, citing he was feeling extremely sick, yet refused to be taken to the hospital. And despite our parents' efforts, they couldn't pull him out of his room, literally. It was like he had gotten stronger, far stronger than a kid of his age should be, with how easy he pushed our dad away. Locked in his room, I could hear him complain about his hands and feet, and something that began to protrude from his face. Eventually, he stopped talking and stopped coming out. I mustered up the courage to finally check on him and found him laying on his bed covered by a blanket. Upon removing his covers, I gasped in shock and was repulsed by the nasty scent that wafted up to my nose. He was dead. Or rather, what used to be my brother was dead. His favorite Piplup hoodie had merged with his flesh, creating some bulbous, bluish-looking penguin thing with a beak made of bone. His fingers had merged together and slightly resembled flippers. Jace's poor feet were now bent at awkward angles like they were trying to become talons. Amidst the remains of my brother, there was a slip of paper with a single crooked sentence written on it. My dream is nothing but a nightmare. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-5254. 5254, also known as Gotta Catch 'em All, refers to the transformation process of a human or object into one of the 980 Pokémon created by Nintendo. Through unknown anomalous means, any person or object is transformed through prolonged exposure to any clothing or accessories that resemble a Pokémon. This process is documented as being extremely painful, and most humans are unable to survive the process. Foundation autopsy reports show that organs and flesh of the deceased have been converted into plastics or cotton. In other words, the material that made up the Pokémon memorabilia replaces the infected person's flesh. Later tests have also shown that an unknown DNA has been found within the deceased. This DNA not only replaces the victim's DNA, but it is speculated to be the DNA of the Pokémon as well. After further research, it has been discovered that these transformations occur if the victim slightly resembles the Pokémon in question, and if the victim in question is near a large number of individuals wearing said Pokémon garb. Discovered rather recently by the Foundation in 2019 in Yokohama, Japan, at the Pikachu Outbreak Festival, 5254 publicly began with a victim behaving erratically while wearing a Pikachu costume. Publicly redacted videos showed a large number of individuals parading down the street in Pikachu costumes. One of them stumbled out of the crowd and charged into a nearby crowd. Nearly a dozen others followed suit shortly after. Foundation MTF Wranglers were mobilized to not only locate these victims, but to terminate them as well for research. Interestingly enough, those harmed in the attack reported electrical burns. Over the course of 2017 to 2018, a series of emails between one Sir Viper and high-level executives from Nintendo, Pokémon Company, and Niantic caught the Foundation's attention. These emails insinuated the plan to bring Pokémons to life, as well as to use them in various purposes such as military firepower. quite literally using Charizard, and potential clean energy using Pikachu. And most disturbingly, kidnapping of children from orphanages under an outreach program for the purposes of running tests. After this, all communications with SCP ceased, and the O5 Council ordered a raid on the Pokémon Company offices on June 16, 2019. This was done in fear of a potential K-Class scenario. The members from MTF Epsilon 11 were chosen for the raid. The men were gathered by the team leader in the room for a briefing. Alright boys, the darndest thing just happened. Remember them Pokémons you played with when you were little? They just got real. People are turning into them. We're gonna find out why. Now, we've notified the Japanese government about this op. The target is the Pokémon Company offices in Tokyo. No disrespect, Cap, but I simply can't take this seriously. A Pokémon raid? Really? What's the plan? Human lives are involved in this case. Keep that in mind and maybe you'll realize the gravity of the situation. We'll be split into squads. Your team will be on crowd control duty while we do our thing. We move quickly, and we're gonna hit that place hard and fast. Understood? Yes, sir. Alright, grab your gear. We move out in 5. The team arrived at the location via chopper. The men touched down on the roof of the Pokémon Company offices. Multiple MTF squads disembarked, quickly covering the area. Fox 3, status report. Fox 3 and a different squad had blended into the crowd in the lower levels where a Pokémon exhibition was going on. Civilian evacuation in the lower levels in progress. There's a huge Pokémon Center on the first floor that's still filled with tourists. Quarantine for infection. Then rendezvous at coordinates. Roger. Alright, you heard the man. Get those Poké fanatics out of there. Alright team, on me. The MTF agent stacked up against the fire exit on the roof, and the door opened easily. They descended down the fire exit steps and reached a set of double steel doors on the lower level. Silently, Fox 1 gestured Fox 2 to prep some smoke grenades in a flashbang as he breached the doors. All the canisters are tossed in, and just as they were about to storm in, there was a huge mechanic clank from the other end of the hall, followed by the sound of heavy, thudding footsteps. Hold on, shh. Hear that? The men watched the corridor in anticipation. A low growl, followed by a roar. A 2 meters tall creature emerged from the smoke. Orange skin, elongated snout, and 2 vast wings flapped with power to blow away the smoke. It then roared again straight at the men as they froze. Holy crap! Is that freaking Charizard? Engage! Engage! The dragon-like creature immediately spewed streams of fire, setting some of the men aflame. Get cover! Get cover! But keep the pressure on. What's the plan here, boss? Shoot it till it's dead. And eventually, the team filled the creature with bullet holes, and it was brought down. Its fallen carcass lay slumped over in the middle of the hallway, bleeding from its wounds. Christ, never thought I'd see the day where I gunned down my favorite Pokémon. Clear. Proceed to lower levels. The MTF passed more and more hallways. Pokémon posters lined the walls with slogans like "Prepare for trouble" and "Make it double," with the occasional person in a white coat detained as they emerged from a doorway. Makes you wonder what kind of messed up stuff they've been hiding down here. Quiet, eyes up front. They arrived at another steel door. They stacked up, and this time, Fox 1 gestured for explosives. Breach and clear. Weapons free. Shoot anything that walks funny. They set the charge and took cover behind a turn in the corridor. The doors flew wide open as the explosives went off. Screams echoed within the room as the MTF entered and scanned for targets through the smoke. As the smoke cleared, they could see the room was brightly lit and filled with colorful drawings, toys scattered on the floor, and rows of metal cages set against the walls, housing abominations that shocked the team. Good God! The creatures within the cages were at various stages of 5254 transformation. However, most of them can be seen were transformed from children. These kids. Wait, does this mean the Charizard we killed before was… Yeah, looks like it. I'm sorry. Fox 2 stumbled back and vomited in disgust as the children afflicted with 5254 cried. Jesus. Fox Den, think we found the kids. Requesting immediate medical pickups. Copy. Any sign of Sir Viper? Negative. Only his handiwork. We're seizing electronic serves as evidence. Copy. Over. Over. Christ. Think I've seen enough for a day. I remember when I was a kid, I loved Pokémon. Loved it. Every game, every cartoon, figurines, I'd collect them all. Hell, I even have a sticker album that I keep in my drawers at home. I've always wished that I live in the Pokémon world, seeing and playing with these fantastic beings. Well, you don't have to wish for it any longer. It has become a reality. Your wish has come true. I used to think being around them would be so much fun, but now I'm not so sure anymore. In order to mitigate the effects of 5254, embedded Foundation personnel in the Pokémon Company worked to suppress the popularity of Pokémon. This was done by causing outrage of Pokémon Sword and Shield by releasing it with limited Pokémons, as well as preventing large-scale Pokémon-themed events. Despite the Foundation's efforts, Sir Viper has yet to be apprehended. Viewer discretion is advised. Champion Gary sent out Executor. Enemy Executor used Stomp. Return, Sherman. Go, Johnny. Hello, everybody. I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-457. SCP-457, also known as the Burning Man, is a sentient flame that can transition into the physical form of a male human. However, its actual composition is still unknown. Thus, it has proven to be invisible and undetectable by any known means. 457's most rudimentary form appears to be that of a single flame, comparable in size one ignited by a matchstick. In this form, 457 possesses only the simplest of directives and seems relatively harmless and ordinary when compared to any other flame. However, it does possess a penchant for suddenly flickering to burn human hands, along with the ability to jump to more flammable materials or other flames. When this happens, it absorbs these additional flames and incorporates them into its final form. As SCP-457 grows larger, it is able to form more complex shapes. Its intelligence grows with its size and fuel sources. 457 has been observed attempting to communicate by creating letters out of its own flames, charring them into the wall or other surfaces. More rarely, it attempts to communicate through speech that is seemingly created via high pressure, superheated air, and the crackling and pops of flames. Once 457 reaches an unknown threshold of size and fuel source, 457 splits into two beings, and so on and so forth. However, multiple beings of 457 are aggressive towards each other and will either attempt to consume or extinguish their doubles, especially if there is only a limited amount of fuel at hand. SCP-457's behavior is always predictable, as its goals are simply to acquire larger sources of fuel that it can use to spread its flame. The danger of 457 comes from its ability to increase its intelligence with its size, along with its apparent ability to learn and mimic behaviors. This has led to its purposeful decision to severely damage much of the sprinkler system and destroy a portion of the fuel injector that had been sustaining its intelligent form, giving it free access to several gallons of gasoline. It has also attempted to trick or reason with SCP personnel to be released or have access to more fuel. Due to 457's unique composition, variable intelligence, and uncooperative nature, its psychology may not be accurately determined in accordance with any human analogy. Below is a tale written by Dexanote titled SC Pokémon. Dr. Django Bridge was sent out to retrieve SCP-826. Bridge looked at the portal, a door of white light opening to the unknown. He took a deep breath, then a long sigh. After several minutes of dread and reflection, he slung on the backpack they gave him and stepped in. Bridge opened his eyes and looked around. A bedroom. A bed in one corner. Computer. There is a TV and Super Nintendo sitting in the middle of the floor, and that's a bit strange. Stairs in the corner of the bedroom. He descended the stairs, noticing a woman at a table. "Hello?" He tapped the woman on the shoulder. She turned and smiled. "Right, all boys leave home someday. It said so on TV." He dropped the backpack and finally read the mission brief Steve gave him. Dr. Bridge. Enclosed is a set of mission-appropriate equipment. a photograph of SCP-826, and a packed lunch. Please retrieve SCP-826 as soon as humanly possible, and do not allow the complete destruction of any of the provided items. If our theories are correct, and if you reach a game over, you will die. Agent Lament. Inside the bag were 6 red and white spheres, numbered 1 through 6. My mission is a Pokémon Red Nuzlocke with a hack team. He turned and started off north, sticking a foot into the tall grass that was about knee-high. With a flash of light, a Charmander appeared before the bridge. He picked a ball from the backpack. A flash of light, a flash of red, and a huge, hulking thing appeared. A spine sailed down its back, its mouth filled with enormous, glowing red teeth. The being was sightless, with an eyeless face, an unmoving mouth, and yet it was laughing with many voices. Welker laughed at Charmander, screaming in 4 distinct voices. Charmander shivered, then leapt and scratched it across the face. Welker's Intimidate cut enemy Charmander's attack. Charmander's attack fell. Charmander used Scratch. Crunch! Enemy Charmander fainted. 3 hours later, Bridge was strolling in the Pokémon Center, poking his head in every building, looking in every bookshelf and in every PC. Alas, there was no 826. Entering the gym, he tossed a ball into the pool. 3 minutes later, he stepped out, with Bob hopping behind. 3 more hours and Bridge exited Celadon Gym, with Laserbeak gliding close behind. Then, Bridge rode off to Route 19 on Pazuzu's shoulders. 2 hours later, Bridge exited the Viridian Gym, with Johnny in tow. The city burned and small cracks were forming in the sky, with Glitchmon leaking through. Fuel. No. Fuel. Johnny, return. Stop whining. We're getting out of here. Finally. Bridge looked up to the huge building before him. 10 straight hours inside the game. He was tired, hungry, and had to piss. The Pokémon League? The Pokémon League. Shut up. Shut up. No, you. No, you. Haha. 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 Okay, that was creepy. Welcome to the Pokémon League. I'm Bruno of the Elite Four, shouted a shirtless man sitting in the middle of a room full of rocks. Through rigorous training, people and Pokémon can become stronger without limitations. An onyx burst from the ground. Bridge dropped Sherman's ball. A burst of white light, a rustle of leaves, and a massive pile of kindling crowded his half of the arena. Sherman, Razor Leaf, Bridge commanded. Sherman used Razor Leaf. It's super effective. Enemy Onyx used Harden. Enemy Onyx's defense rose. Sherman used Razor Leaf. It's super effective. Enemy Onyx fainted. Elite Four Bruno sent out Hitmonchan. Enemy Hitmonchan used Fire Punch. It's super effective. Sherman, that's enough. Come back. Go, Johnny. Johnny used Inferno. Critical hit. Enemy Hitmonchan fainted. Elite Four Bruno sent out Hitmonlee. Enemy Hitmonlee fainted. Elite Four Bruno sent out Onyx. It's not very effective. Enemy Onyx fainted. That's enough. Return, Johnny. Johnny knocked out 3 enemies in a row. Then, Bridge entered the next room and looked around. The room was much bigger on the inside. It was an actual stadium, a coliseum. It had an opening that looked up to the night sky, and there was one single figure standing there under the lights. Hey, I was looking forward to seeing you, Django. My rival should be strong to keep me sharp. Champion Gary sent out Pidgeot. Go, Laserbeak. Enemy Pidgeot used Wing Attack. It's not very effective. Laserbeak used Steel Wing. Enemy Pidgeot used Wing Attack. It's not very effective. Laserbeak used Steel Wing. Enemy Pidgeot fainted. The birds circled each other, dive smashing each other with their wings. Laserbeak landed one right in Pidgeot's face, shattering its beak and throwing it into the wall. Champion Gary sent out Alakazam. That's enough. Come back, Laserbeak. Go, Pazuzu. Pazuzu used Sucker Punch. It's super effective. Enemy Alakazam fainted. Pazuzu rushed the Alakazam as it readied a psychic attack, running it through with 3 spear legs and cutting it apart. Champion Gary sent out Rhydon. Return, Pazuzu. Go, Sherman. Enemy Rhydon used Horn Drill, but it failed. Sherman used Frenzy Plant. It's super effective. Enemy Rhydon fainted. Rhydon charged forward, spinning Death Horn shearing through Sherman to no avail. The sticks scattered for a brief moment, thrown by the horn's inertia. They rushed together and smushed the Dino Beast underneath the whole 1-ton heap. Champion Gary sent out Executor. Enemy Executor used Stomp. Return, Sherman. Go, Johnny. Johnny used Inferno. It's super effective. Enemy Executor fainted. Bob lodged itself into the ground, leaving itself open for Executor to stomp it ineffectually. The tree checked its foot, assuming the snail was dead before being completely and instantly incinerated by Johnny's pure raging hunger. Champion Gary sent out Charizard. Johnny, come back. Go, Welker. Welker's Intimidate cut enemy Charizard's attack. Enemy Charizard used Fire Blast. Welker was burned. Welker used Thunder Fang. It's super effective. Welker was hurt by its burn. Enemy Charizard used Slash. Critical hit. Welker used Crunch. Enemy Charizard fainted. The Charizard and 939 stared each other down. The dragon was shuddering upon its remembrance of their first battle. Welker began to sing nursery rhymes as Charizard froze in brief terror. A shudder turned to a growl, and recoil turned to rage. Then, Gary's starter launched a huge 5-pointed star of fire at Welker, crashing the red beast like a truck. On fire, the Welker leapt at the dragon, crunching down with a mouthful of lightning. Charizard returned with a slash, hewing a side of flesh right off Welker. The burning demon returned with a predatory bite to crush the skull. Charizard fell. No, that can't be. You beat my best. Bridge returned Welker and turned to leave, snatching up SCP-826 before the in-game script made him hit the end screen. Dr. Bridge stepped out of the doorway, holding a belt of SC Pokeballs and the bookends.